Hi, Roshni, can you hear me? Hi. Okay, so I'm going to make you the presenter now. I don't know whether you can hear me? मुझे आवाज क्यों नहीं आ रही है? Am I on mute?
What?
No. Yeah.
Now?
No. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah. It was automatically somehow on mute. I don't know.
Yeah. So
But yeah, this is fine.
you are a presenter now. So आप share screen करके एक बार देख लीजिए.
We will have live audience, right?
Yeah. We will have audience because I'm going to invite them now because अभी एक drop किया था मैंने message कि we are live. So I'm going
मुझे
to
देख
share it
लेने
with.
तो share कहाँ से होता है screen?
आप देखो कहाँ पे शेयर बटन राइट साइड में ऊपर दिख रहा है मुझे.
हाँ. Share window screen or tab. So how do I get? Okay, wait a sec. Okay.
ठीक है आप देखो मैं in the meantime I'll send
देखो
the messages. Okay. So as people join in, you can simply welcome them.
So I have shared. So are you able to see the shared screen?
Just a second. Yes, I can see your screen now.
Okay, fine.
ठीक है? I see few people are there. Welcome Rupali. Welcome Tanya. We'll wait for a few minutes to have few more people. I'll just send the meeting link reminder once again. So Roshni,
yes.
You can get started.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Rupali, hi. Where are you joining in from?
Yeah, hi. Hi, Roshni. I'm from UK.
UK. Okay. What time is it there?
It's 1:30.
1:30 in the afternoon. Nice.
Afternoon, yes.
Okay. So what do you do, Rupali?
I am in the coaching space. And I mostly work with startup founders.
Oh, so you are a business coach, is it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Thank you.
So, nice. And Tanya, are you also on call? Are you able to talk to us?
Yes. Hi, Roshni.
Hi. And you are joining in from?
I'm from Goa.
Goa. Oh, wow.
Yes.
Dream destination and busy time of the year coming up.
Yes.
Wow. I have so many friends who are like always making us jealous with this dream life. Oh, we are sitting on Goa beach and yeah, with a laptop working. So I'm like, okay, laptop needs charging. How can you work on a beach?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the dream we are sold. But what about you? Are you working the same way? Freedom business?
I'm a maths teacher, actually.
Maths teacher.
So into coaching, giving private coaching to students.
Okay, nice. So, any one of you have a podcast of your own, or you're looking to start?
I'm very curious with this concept. So I think that's how my curiosity brought me here.
Nice.
Yes.
Yes, I want to get to know about it. So
Yeah.
I don't have my own. I heard about it. So today I want to learn about it.
Okay, interesting. So, but I hope you both listen to podcasts.
Yes.
Yes, very much.
Okay, so which ones are your favorite?
Because I'm here in the UK, Steve Bartlett, Dario for CEO is my favorite.
That is my favorite too, of course.
Yeah, I think um, it's just the intensity and the depth
Yeah,
of the setting and the conversations that happen.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I think that's what attracted me.
Mm, true. And I love the fact that even though Steven has done so many episodes, many of the topics might be repetitive for him. Yet he comes
Yeah.
in with so much curiosity. He always
Yes.
is eager to
Yes.
learn and ask more and go deeper with the guests.
Yeah.
And he is always having that learner hat on. So that what
Absolutely. I
makes
think
it so
yes,
interesting.
I would agree with that because I've also watched and heard a few of Jay Shetty's
Hmm.
episodes, but
Yes.
I don't know. I find them a bit louder than what I'm happy to listen to the
Hmm.
OAC. I don't know.
Hmm.
That's maybe a personality trait,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
agree. I agree. Jay Shetty is someone who has like haters and lovers both.
a flamboyant. He's
Yeah,
a bit of flamboyant kind of a
yeah,
host. So yes, you would
yeah,
have either have haters or lovers. It's,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I
I
know.
get that.
No, I
So
love
yes,
both. I love Jay's podcast as well as Stephen both. Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yes, I come from a place where I was a very avid listener of radio.
Mm,
So the concept of bringing conversations out and talking about a topic or creating that vivid imagination to your for your listeners is
mm,
something that I've always been curious about. So
mm.
I've always had this a dream of having my own. Haven't got
Wow.
around yet.
Wow. So I hope today's session helps you to move a little bit closer to achieving your dream,
Looking forward to it
launching
very
the
much.
podcast. Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
welcome,
So,
Bhairavi. Yeah, happy to have you.
yeah, Roshni, so you can get started because let people
Sure.
join. Uh, Many of them may catch the recording because they come from different time zones. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
correct.
go ahead.
Okay. So, okay. Everyone is able to see? Okay. Super. So, like we were talking, Rupali, Tanya, and Bhairavi, I didn't get to hear it from you, but yeah, what we are primarily talking about here is how to leverage podcast for business. Many of us are avid podcast listeners. We love to consume podcast, and all honestly speaking, to start off with my own journey, I also started with being an avid listener and consumer of podcasts. And I never imagined that everyone, like people like you and me, can have podcasts because it was always being hosted by people with who had very baritone and sexy voices, and they were journalists and media houses, publications who were running these shows, or startup founders who I believed have deep pockets, and only those people can start a podcast. But when in 2020, the entire geographies, entire uh, world closed down in terms of movement. So that's when I had to look at new avenues of promoting my business. And since I was not a very video savvy person, I discovered podcasts as a way to share my wisdom, my journey, my expertise, because audio was a very easy tool to share your knowledge with. So that's how I got into podcasts, because everyone in US was having this three things for their marketing: a podcast, an Instagram page, and an email list. Those were the only three things that people had. Hello, Mohit. Thank you for joining. And so, yeah, so that's how my podcasting journey started. And a little bit more about myself. Uh, I am the founder of podcast production company called Done For You Podcast. We also do a podcast recommendation letter called Indian Podcast List, where we spotlight Indian podcasters and help podcast fans find and discover more podcasts. Along with that, yes, there have been a slew of things that I have been doing over the 5+ years as a podcaster and a podcast producer. We have launched 25 plus client shows, 700 plus episodes we produced. Um, I have been mentored by a global podcast accelerator called OSA, where there were industry experts from around the world, specifically into the niche of podcasting. I had recently been invited to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, where a global seminar, an industry conference of radio and podcast was happening, and I was fortunate enough to present my business, my work, our passion projects of Indian Podcast List, as well as our intention of bringing more female voices into podcasting. Uh, my podcast, of course, has been into the space for around 3+ years, and a couple of uh, awards we've won, top of the charts positioning. And the reason I tell you all this is because I just want you to know that yes, there are a couple of things. I know a thing or two about podcasting, and that's what I'm here to share. So let's get started with it. Firstly, why should you bother about starting a podcast? Of course, we keep hearing this thing that podcasting is the buzzword. It helps you to tell about your business, educate your audience. It's a great marketing tool. But still, why a coach or a consultant like you should start a podcast? Of course, it's so much work, right? People struggle to write consistently on LinkedIn. Then why to take on a thing like podcasting, which is such a lot of work? I mean, Ranjini would agree with me because she has her podcast herself, and it's a lot of work. Specifically for coaches and consultants, of course, there is a long list of benefits of podcast. I could give you 15 plus reasons why you should start a podcast. But for people like you and me who are coaches, consultants, who are subject matter experts, especially, these are the four things which can be top priority for you when it comes to why you should start a podcast. Because as coaches and consultants, we know the first question we need to answer is the big why, right? So, so the first reason is thought leadership. Uh, we want our audience, our potential clients to see us as trusted advisor, someone who knows their work, and podcast becomes a great way to demonstrate that expertise. Because when you are behind the mic and you are talking about a subject matter, for example, you are a career coach. And if you are sitting across a guest or you are sitting across a client with whom you've worked previously, you are sitting there as the expert and you are talking from a position of being the expert in this house, right? That's what helps you gain trust of your audience who are just seeing you. They are just observing you. They are just listening to you. But in the process of doing all this, they are also observing your expertise. They are consuming your expertise. They are consuming your thought leadership because 10 other people will be doing the same thing. But as a career coach, you are the one who is having the podcast and sharing your expertise. So you are able to establish your thought leadership. Be a coach in the ear. As an individual coach or a consultant, there are just so many people you can serve, right? And there are so many people in the world who need your expertise. So for people who are not either able to afford your services or people who are not able to access your services, probably you could be a coach for them. They can just listen to you and get coached. The third reason is reach new audience. All of us are, of course, having a very high level of engaged network, be it offline in the form of where we go to networking events, or through social media where we have a network of people connected with us on LinkedIn, Instagram, or probably your clients and audience if you are working with corporates. So your previous clients, your current clients, your coaches, these are all part of your network. But these are only the people who have like the first circle of access. What about the people who are beyond this circle of influence? You need to access new audience in order to grow your business. Thankfully, podcast works on the technology of search. LinkedIn, Instagram, emails, all of this works on the technology of one-to-one connect of yours. But podcast discovery, which happens through search engine optimization, makes it a potent tool for you to be discovered by new audience. Because the distribution of podcast, this is a little bit technical. The distribution is of podcast is across audio and video channels. So YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Geo7, Overcast, Pocket FM, and so many other places where the podcast is distributed. So since the distribution is wider, the the opportunity of accessing new audience is larger, right? And lastly, creative self-expression. I would also say, along with creative self-expression, for a lot of people, coaches and consultants specifically, with whom we also work as a podcast production company, they also see it as a way of sharing their wisdom, sharing their knowledge, sharing their experience that they have gained over 20 plus years of working as a professional or as a corporate leader or as a coach. It also becomes a paid forward kind of a tool for them, because if they are such a senior coach, and probably a 25-year-old person who is entering the job force, he or she might not be able to afford the services of this seasoned coach. Yet he or she does have the experience and the life that they have experienced to share to this 25-year-old who is looking up to them as a role model. So it becomes a very potent tool for them to use as a paid forward uh, about their experience. So these are the various benefits that an expert coach consultant can derive by launching a podcast. But what's the ROI? Like, what's in it for me? If I am putting so much of time, effort, money into anything, and it has to support my coaching business, what should I be looking for? Now, as business owners, we have this bad habit of uh, defining ROI only in monetary terms. But ROI is not always in monetary terms. It also is on it also is in intangible manner of building your brand, earning the trust, and generating more opportunities. Because all of these things together bring in the money for you. If you don't have a personal brand in today's day and age, people are not going to see you as the trusted advisor. They won't see you as the person with whom they can work, to whom they can give their money, or with whom they can associate their life, career, relationship, or anything with which they are seeking your help. So in today's day and age, the buzzword again, personal brand, is something that a coach and consultant necessarily needs to build. And the ROI of a podcast is that it helps you build your personal brand in a very, very strong manner. The another thing is earning trust. In sales, it is said that it takes about 7 to 8 touch points before anyone starts working with you, before they even decide that they have to work with you or they can buy your services. How will you create these 7 to 8 touch points with your potential client? podcast becomes a way where if they are finding value in your content, they will keep coming back to listen to your podcast, listen to your content, and that becomes the touch point, because in every episode you have the opportunity of telling about your product, program, or service. So if you have a webinar coming up, if you have a course that you are selling, you have a freebie or a lead magnet, you can promote those things because this is your self-owned channel. No one is there to call you salesy. Like if in a LinkedIn post, if after second or third post of sales offer, you keep putting sales posts out there, people will try, like, start shunning you down, because LinkedIn or Instagram are social networks. They are not sales network, right? So there can be a possibility that people start getting offended if you are too salesy on social media platforms. But podcast is your self-owned channel. It is your broadcast medium, and it is your media platform. So you have full authority to promote your product, program, and service. No one will take offense because it's your show. So it becomes a very potent sales channel for you, because you have the opportunity of creating those 7 to 8 touch points before they decide to buy from you. And in the process, you are gaining their trust, generating opportunities. Podcast is a very, very potential tool of not only converting your listeners into loyal customers, but also your guests. So if you are working with corporates, if you are working with very high profile clients, then podcast becomes a tool for you to serve as the foot in the door strategy. You can invite those people who are in your sales pipeline as guests onto your show, and then you have the opportunity of showcasing again your expertise, your work, talking to them about your business. So it can generate more opportunities. Just as an example, for my show, I had invited one of the guests from US. Of course, it was something related to my channel's expertise, which was into sales and business consulting. And the person that I had invited was a sales leader. Few months down the line, he was working or consulting with a company which was looking to do market entry into India. And at that time, that person reached out to me because he knew me from India. So he reached out to me that, hey, we are looking for a channel partner in India. Will you be interested in working with us? So just with a podcast conversation that I had with this person, he was a guest on my show, I was able to have this kind of a business opportunity for myself. So if you just go into podcasting with an open mind, there will be a lot of business opportunities that you can create for yourself. So don't just look at podcast as something which you will invest money today and it will start giving you money tomorrow. It will create opportunities that will turn into a potential or lucrative business to you a few months down the line as well. So now that we have covered the why of the podcast and what to expect when you start a podcast, let's look into what it takes to start a podcast. First is, of course, the commitment and the discipline. Why I say the commitment and the discipline? Because it's very often seen that after 7th episode, after 11th episode, after 21st episode, people stop producing more podcasts because it seems to be very overwhelming process. In the industry jargon, there is a very specific term for it called pod fade. So pod fade means that after 7th, 11th, or 21st episode, people fall off the wagon and they are not able to put out more shows for various reasons. Maybe it is turning out to be more very expensive. Maybe they are not able to get the kind of response they wanted. Maybe it is the entire thing is too overwhelming for them. But if you are able to stick through the process for a longer period of time, you will see the results. So the first thing you need to have clearly in your mind, come what may, I will stick to the consistency. I will stick to the pledge and promise that I've taken. If I've said to myself, okay, I'll produce 25 episodes, I will stick through producing those 25 episodes. Okay. So the first thing is commitment and discipline. The second is equipment, software, and the basics of like what equipment to use, what mic to use, what kind of a camera, what kind of a backdrop. Now, these all are very basic things that you need in place before starting a podcast. So I have a launch checklist which I will give to you towards the end of the session. It's a free checklist, and there you can have recommendations for what kind of an equipment to use, what kind of camera setup, what kind of lighting to use. These are all the basics that you can have from the home. Okay, so you can use these things to set up a home studio for the podcast. But the third and essential thing that needs to be taken care of is professional support and systems. What I mean by support and systems is that it is always good to have a team. Like we do podcast production. So of course we help our clients in the same thing. The only thing they need to do is just record the episode, send to us, and everything else is taken care of. So if this kind of a support is available to you, you will be able to focus on your zone of genius, which is creating the content and not editing and making the graphics or writing the show notes, all of those stuff, because that is what makes the process overwhelming. But I also understand that it is a little expensive exercise. So even if you are doing it in a do it yourself mode, but try to outsource few parts of it, be it editing, be it writing of the show notes. Some parts of it you should take help, because otherwise podcast process will become very, very overwhelming for you. And the second is systems. Systems is very important to keep the entire process very efficient, because truth be told, you have a business to run. Your main bread and butter is your coaching business, not podcasting, right? So you should always have workflows and softwares to help you with the project management of the podcast. So when we work with clients, we have a very tailored and very seamless support system and workflow system. But as business owners, I'm sure you have workflows integrated in every aspect of your business. So similarly, make sure that for podcast also you have your workflows set up so that it's easier for you to put out those episodes. It is very important for you to stay consistent. Again, it loops back to the commitment and discipline aspect. So these three things become very essential: that commitment and consistency to your podcast. Systems and supports help you maintain those consistency, and a good investment in equipments and softwares help you maintain the quality of the podcast. So these are the essentials to get started. Now let's get into the specific aspect of creating of the podcast. So far, so good. Everyone is like understanding and grasping what we are doing here. Super. Now let's come to the aspect of making of the podcast. So till now we have just done the preliminary round. Now we come to making of the podcast strategy. Now here are the things that you necessarily need to keep in mind when you start thinking about your podcast. First is identifying your niche and target audience. Uh, One very common question I always am asked is that everyone is starting a podcast nowadays. So many podcasts are starting. Who is even listening to it? So this is a question which I often get. So my always the nudge I always want to give back is we have to ask the right questions. The question is not who is listening to podcast, because truth be told, there are 7 billion people on the planet. There are 1.3 on in India itself, and out of such a big population, 70% have a mobile, and out of that approximately 55% have an app like YouTube or Spotify installed on it. which means you have access to these kind of people, these many eyes and ears you already have. So there's no dearth of audience. There is an audience for every kind of content. The question here is, do you have the ability to create a kind of content that these people will be interested in? People keep giving examples of Ranveer Alabadia, Ankur Wariko, or even like we were talking about Rupali earlier, Stephen Bartlett. What have they done? Are you the person who can captivate the attention of these kind of people, your audience? Because attention is the currency of today's day and age. Everyone is looking for the attention or captivating or attracting the attention of their audience. So audience is out there. There is no dearth of audience. There are 385 million Instagram pages in India alone, 130 million LinkedIn pages alone in India. We don't ask a question before starting a new LinkedIn account or a new Instagram account. Then why do we ask this question that why to start a podcast? Everyone has a podcast. No, if you are a life coach, the way you talk about life and purpose and mental health is very different from any other coach. The way you talk about business coaching is very different from any other business coach. In our work itself, we have produced 4 to 5 leadership based podcasts, and every podcast is different. Everyone is talking about leadership in a very different manner. So what you bring to the table is very, very unique. But it needs a very, very deep understanding of your target audience. We will just look in a bit what it means to identify your audience as well. The second thing, you definitely need setting of clear goals. Again, podcast is a marketing tool. And like in business, you define your marketing funnel. Similarly, for podcasts, you need to define where your podcast sits in your marketing funnel. Is it at top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, or bottom of the funnel? Because until unless you have this clarity, you will not be able to align your call to actions to the business objective that you have. So if your podcast is only about awareness, there will be a different kind of call to action. If it is for community engagement, there will be a different kind of call to action. If it is lead generation, then that objective will have different parameters of success. So be very clear about why you are starting a podcast. Is it only to motivate or inspire your audience? So the kind of product, programs, or service you will promote in your podcast will be very, very different. Yes, Rupali, you have a question?
It can wait if you want to finish it.
Um, if it is related to this topic, you can ask away. No
Okay, yes, it is related. So when you say you need to have clear goals, I'm thinking, yes, mostly podcasts are about awareness so that people can come to know about you, your work, and what do you do, and understand, creating that trust,
Yeah.
authority, and credibility. But can a podcast can have different episodes can have all three, cater to all three strategies, is what I'm trying to understand.
Hmm. So overall, one podcast can have at max 2 to 3 objectives at max.
Mm.
It
Okay.
cannot have, so we shouldn't try to kill 3 birds with one arrow kind of a thing. Okay.
Yeah, so not everything in one episode, but
Mhm.
can it be like if I'm talking about something today, that can be just part of awareness, and if I bring in
Mm.
someone tomorrow, that can be an engagement, and if I'm
Yeah.
doing something on the third episode or 10th episode somewhere down the
Yeah.
line. So what
Of
I'm trying to
course. Of
say is,
course. Of
when you
course.
start something,
Mm.
it will evolve. We all
It will evolve. If
Yes,
exactly.
we all start with certain kind of thought process and understanding, like this is how we want it to go.
Mm.
But
Mm.
then through the feedback and through the interactions and the way it progresses, we learn and then it
Mm.
evolves. So that's what I'm trying to understand. Is it like just a podcast theme has to be a strategy, or different strategies can be come into the same podcasts that you're working on?
Hmm,
That's
hmm,
if
hmm,
I'm not sure if that has
hmm,
come across
hmm, hmm.
like clearly.
Yeah. No, of course, you are right that a podcast also evolves. It has a life of its own. So, for
Mhm,
example, if at the very start of the podcast phase, it has the objective of awareness because it's very
mhm,
new, building a new audience. So, of course, you cannot sell in the first go anything to them. But over a period of time, your audience also matures. When you reach to
mhm,
30th episode or maybe 50th episode, people are already are seeing that you are consistently showing up, that trust has
mhm,
already built up. Now if you sell something or if you tell something to them that okay, go to this website and check this out and download this lead magnet, they will do it because now you have
mhm,
gained that trust. So now the business objective is different. Now the strategy
mhm.
has evolved. So of
Right,
course, one podcast will evolve, and from top of the funnel, it will move to middle, it will move to the bottom of the funnel.
right.
And that's why
Yeah.
I said that it is very important for you to understand which stage your podcast lies at what point of time, and then your call to actions will align to those objectives.
Right.
So,
Okay.
so of
Okay.
course,
What I
one.
understood was like you create differently for different stages of the funnel.
Mm,
That's what I understood,
yeah,
and that's where the
yeah.
question
So
came from.
now is it clear? Okay, super. So yeah, so that's what. So first is defining of the goal, and then aligning your business objectives with those goals. So these are the things that you make a part of your strategy creation of the podcast before, because before you even hit the record button, you should have those things aligned. Very important. Building a successful podcast requires a clear understanding of your audience. Like I said, there are, let's assume there are 1.4 billion people ready to listen to your podcast. But are all of them having the same needs? Are they have all having the same pain that you are solving for them? You are a doctor, probably you are a heart surgeon. Why will you want a diabetic person coming to you, right? So you need to have a very clear understanding of for whom you are creating this podcast. Your entire content strategy, your entire marketing strategy will revolve around it. What we need to understand about our target audience. Of course, demographics, psychographics is something which you as a business owner are anyways doing for your business. So that is probably something which you already have sorted in your place. So the audience which you have or which you are catering to in your business, more than often, the podcast audience is also the same. There is an overlap. But what is different is how you are going to engage them and what are the listening habits. Engagement means uh, your audience on social media, your community. Now, podcast doesn't work in silos. Okay, it doesn't. It will be a wrong expectation if you think that I will launch a podcast and very soon I will have like 1,000 plus downloads to every episode. That it won't work that way. Podcast also works in association, or it is threaded to the all the other marketing activities you are doing. So there will be cross promotion, there will be cross pollination of audience, and you will engage your social media audience to the podcast audience to the social. So you will ask podcast people to follow you on Instagram. On Instagram, you will ask people to listen to your podcast. So this cross pollination and engagement will keep happening because, like I said earlier, you need to have those many touch points with your potential clients. So these all are touch points working in tandem with each other. But what's very critical for you to understand here is the listening habits. In today's day and age, the attention span of people is reducing, right? No wonder we are having now 60 seconds reel. But we cannot provide every kind of a valuable content that as a coach or a consultant you have to that can be delivered in 60 seconds, right? It needs a proper treatment. So you need to have long form content in your marketing portfolio. But you also need to analyze your listening behavior. For example, if your target audience is CXOs, CEOs, thought leaders, very busy people, you cannot expect that they will listen to a 1 hour podcast. Maybe then you will have a show which will have a like a hybrid format. There will be long form content like 45 minutes to 1 hour episodes, but there will be shorter bites which are like 10-12 minutes also. For example, your audience is women, maybe women who are working from home, or new moms, or women who are very interested in fitness. You have to like just observe what is their lifestyle, how much time they are devoting to listening to a podcast. Then you will understand that on an average they are able to spend 20 to 25 minutes listening to an episode, because probably they are driving down to pick up their kid, or they are walking around in the park doing their evening stroll while their child is playing or something like that. So you have to really think about the listening habits of your audience, because it will determine your podcast format. Generally, we think that podcasts are only interview, that one person is questioning, other one is answering. No, that is not the only format. There are many other formats that a podcast can be done in. There are solo, there are co-hosted, there is moderated, where you are the expert and someone else is asking you the question. These are all very, very frequently used formats specifically for coaching, consulting business, or community driven businesses. And the listening habit of your audience determines your podcast format. Also, your podcast strategy and what you are trying to achieve, your business objective determines your podcast format. So, these are the things that you need to keep in mind while strategizing the podcast. Then we come to the actual making of the podcast, which is the content creation and episode planning. Here it is very, very important that once you have identified who this is for, and what is the kind of format you are delivering podcast in, you now need to understand that what are the kind of topics, themes, or content pillars you are addressing. Now, one thing which is very important for you to understand here is that, like I said earlier, we shouldn't try to kill two birds with one arrow kind of a thing. You cannot be talking about career also, and then life also, and then mental health also, and then physical fitness also in one podcast. Of course, if you are talking about, for example, one of our clients does a show on business management. Okay. Now, the overarching theme of the show is business management for entrepreneurs. But under this, there are many other subtopics. Like, of course, an entrepreneur needs to take care of their team. An entrepreneur needs to be careful about their productivity. Uh, an entrepreneur should be able to take care of their mindset. So these all things are sub pillars of the overarching theme of business management. So when you sit to decide the topics or the episodes of your show, like think of what the listener will take back as an insight from each episode, and then as a podcast overall. Okay, so so always plan 8 to 10 episode in one go. That okay, these are the themes that I will be covering in. What happens generally is, I've seen this a lot with people, is that whatever guests they get, they bring them on and do the interview. But that's not a very strategic way of addressing or approaching podcast, because then you are losing the sight of what the audience is going to take away. So what we do in our production processes is we always uh, batch record and pre-record the episodes, and then put it out so that we are able to have a linked theme to the conversation, so that this also helps in people getting hooked to the next episode if it is of the same interest. So if I am in the mood of listening to mental health, then I will be in the mood or the mindset of listening to everything related to mental health in the subsequent episodes. If I am interested about learning about how to manage relationships in marriage or a relationship with parents, I will be more inclined to listen to episodes which are consecutive to it. So, so just plan your content of the podcast not in silos as one particular episode at a go, but make it more thematic. Monetization strategies. Again, one question which I very often get, that how the podcast will be monetized. Again, my nudge here is we should be asking the right questions. The question here is not how the podcast will give you money. The question here is, are you able to curate a model or a content out of the podcast which will help you gain money? So, like I said, in as a coach or a consultant, you have a self-owned platform where you can promote your product, program, or service. So, use the podcast to market your services. The second thing is acquire sponsorships, listener support, like from platforms like Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, those kind of stuff. You can do affiliate marketing. But just keep in mind that if you go this route, then you definitely need to have a very large following, a large audience. Uh, the minimum that any brand associates with a podcast is 1,000 downloads per episode. So once you start reaching and hitting those numbers, then it probably makes sense to go this route of monetization. Another question which I always come back to uh, is that whenever we start LinkedIn, social media, we don't ask that why isn't LinkedIn paying me? Why isn't Instagram paying me? Okay. So again, Instagram influencers or people on LinkedIn are able to charge money for their posts because they have built their audience. So similarly for podcast, if you are able to build your audience, then you can definitely go to brands and sponsors to uh, pay you money for the content that you do for them. And this is a very untapped area which people can do, which is launch merchandise and motivational products around their podcast. So if you are a motivational coach, very like it's very easy that you come up with some motivational frames or mugs or something like that which is related to your business or related to the wisdom that you share with your coaches, and make it a part of your podcast promotion. So these are the kind of things that you can do. You can promote your services, you can partner with other brands, and you can launch your products, maybe digital products as well, which you can sell through the podcast. So that's that. So that's the journey of podcasting. And yeah, the only thing that you need to do is get started, because now you have the why of the podcast, what is needed, how to strategize, what is the kind of content you should build, and you just need to go out there and start your podcast. And these are the three things that will help you get started. Uh, I said earlier in the presentation that I will give you a launch checklist. So I will just put in the chat group the links to all of those things. Um, just wait a sec. Um, you are able to see the presentation still, right? Okay. So in the chat, I have mentioned the link of the launch checklist. Here you will be able to get the recommendations for the equipments, lights, all the resources that can help you get started with launching your podcast. Like what are the essentials? How to come up with a good title for your podcast? Where to find the music, free music for your podcast? So all of those things are available in the checklist. You can go do that. The next thing that can help you get started is if you want a one-on-one strategy session with me, you can book it through Dotmate. And lastly, if you want to work with our production company, where we will be able to help you with the entire post-production, editing, management of, and the growth of the podcast, we can share about our services for that as well. For anything further, if you want to ask me specifically something, feel free to drop me an email, connect with me on LinkedIn, on Insta, and yeah, if you liked this session, do share on LinkedIn if there was something valuable for you. And yeah, open for questions. So first of all, was this valuable? Did you learn something? What was the takeaway for you?
It was good, Roshni. Thank you for, hearing from an expert is, you know, um, like somebody who has been there, no? Makes a lot of sense because we do our own thing,
Yeah,
right?
hit and
So we do our own thing, so we know where we need to, we can see the gaps. Let me put it
yeah,
that way. We can
super.
see the gap. So this was a topic I would say over this year. Many of our community members, have asked me, and I remember one of my first sessions this year was on podcasting. I would say the
I,
first week of January. Like I
okay.
give them a fair brief of like how you can start on your own. No, but who wants to do it on a committed basis, you need to have a plan. So
Yeah.
getting started is easy. So, but I could not. Some of them would could start with some. I would say maybe people like you who help people produce and edit and
Yeah.
do all that tech thing. And but many of them, because they come from different locations. Like I have people in Dubai and other places. So the what to say, the technology glitch we have being a
Mm,
different location. I'm
mm,
not able to be a good resource in terms of doing it from that.
yeah. Yeah.
So it was on my mind like it's a problem not solved for my group of people. तो मैंने सोचा अभी साल खत्म हो रहा है. I don't want to have a backlog.
Yeah, no,
कि मैं
kudos to you,
2025 में ये
Anjali,
प्रॉब्लम लेके
that
एंटर नहीं करना चाहती.
yeah,
So I'm
like
giving
kudos
it.
to you that you are so aware and vigilant about the needs of your community and the people you serve, because you took the initiative of giving answers and supplying answers to them. And I hope people will be able to find answers. And so, like you rightly said, that for me also at a personal level, I was able to stay consistent with my podcast because I knew that if I get into the non-sexy part of like editing and writing the show notes, I will fall off the bandwagon too fast. I will not be able to stay consistent with it. And that's when I launched my production company, I knew that people are not looking for more gyan, but they are looking for hand holding. They are looking for the support who will take things off their plate so that they are able to focus on the making of the podcast and their business, which is most important. So
Yeah,
so yeah, so of course we work with clients all across the globe. We have clients in US, Australia, and
yeah.
would be happy to open up Dubai as a geography for us also.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And see, in my community, see, it is more about not about really launching a coaching program and making some money. And this is
Yeah.
not all about why I started. And people here, their work is beyond business. They're building a brand. So that's why we have a book, we have
Yes.
other tools, we have podcast. Some like no, some of our, I would say like 1 out of 10 is doing it. No, अपनी
True.
तरीके से कुछ ना कुछ चल रहा है, includes me. मेरा भी है. I have interviewed 60 people so far.
Yeah.
But मैंने for me it's a passion of sharing, talking about the wisdom I want to share, what wisdom people have,
True.
giving them an opportunity. But no, strategically कुछ नहीं किया है. But I'm just going with the flow because my brand need to have some उस
Some
तरह का भी एक
visibility.
content piece
Yes.
होना चाहिए
Yes.
इस type से.
Yes.
But there are good numbers. I would you can drop your link. You can have people, and I will be sharing this as a recording to many other groups that I have some global speakers. I recently got into some networking groups. So I see podcasting is, I feel, must have for educators. A must
Definitely.
have in
Definitely.
their
Must have.
in their content game में होना चाहिए. So
होना
you
चाहिए, होना चाहिए.
so
And
looking
especially for busy business owners, like it works beautifully because they are able to create an entire content funnel out of it. कि आप बस मतलब एक बार ही लॉन्ग फॉर्म कंटेंट करो एंड उससे फिर आपके सारे लिंक्डइन पोस्ट, इंस्टाग्राम रील, यूट्यूब शॉर्ट्स सब उसी से निकल जाएंगे. सो यू डोंट हैव टू डुप्लीकेट एफर्ट्स इनटू प्रोड्यूसिंग कंटेंट. That's the most lucrative thing that I feel for busy business owners is when they start a podcast.
So, no, I'm happy, like, no, instead of me giving, in bits and pieces, what I have done, it would be a, I would say half-baked cake that won't serve. So having you here really solves this problem.
Yes.
And I'm keeping certain things off my plate कि ये चीजें मेरे को नहीं करना है. I will have some expert do this. So,
Definitely. I
so
think we
thank
have
you.
some questions. Rupali, Meena, yes, Rupali.
Yes, Roshni, thank you. That was really good. Well, as I would agree with Ranjini, like no, it's you can see a lot of gaps. What you aspire to do and what actually is required.
True.
Just a quick, just another one, which came from the point that you said that it's a long form content and everything else can come off it, like the shorter forms and the content feed that you generate. So would an only voice podcast be a good idea, or do you need to have video?
Good question. So you can definitely start out with audio only, but it will only serve as a medium for you to just overcome that barrier or that inertia that you have towards starting a podcast. But if you want it to succeed, you should have and you need to have the video element also, because podcasting again is a distribution game. And the more number of platforms and channels you are present in, the more benefit you have. So if you are missing out on the entire search engine and the analytics and the presence on YouTube as a video, of course you can put out static image with audio waves or an audiogram you can
It
make.
doesn't work. Feels
But
like
it doesn't work. But it doesn't
yeah,
work. Yeah.
feels
So
like
if
it's
you
boring. Yeah.
so definitely podcasts are in today's day and age by definition both audio and
Video.
video. It's
Okay.
I would suggest consider doing both.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Meena.
Any other
Thank you so
question,
much.
anyone? Yeah.
Thank you, Ranjani, for arranging this session. I entered last 10 minutes. Sorry for the delay. I just missed the timing. Actually, I have not seen my watch, and I was just in the mandir for my prayer. So I just missed that. So let's surely we'll watch that video. But yes, my question got answered actually. That audio and video, which one is important to go with?
Okay.
So at the end,
Honestly speaking, like my heart and my love is audio first, because podcast by definition is audio.
correct.
But like YouTube always does, it monopolizes and cannibalizes everything. So it came in and captured podcast definition as well. But yeah, if you are feeling any inertia towards starting, start off with an audio, but do make it a point or do have it in your plan to that you have to transition into video. So that
Because before 2 years back I started, but somehow because that now I'm not into that motivational speaking, I'm into some other coaching now. So that's why I'm not just putting some video, some audios over there.
mm-hmm.
So the right thing is, ki, yes, we can start with that, and later on I can
Yeah,
slowly and
yeah.
gradually move to the video also.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
video is the best one if you go ahead with the video even.
Yeah, yeah. Because, like I said, that again, when you will watch the recording, you will get to know that in one of the slides I had talked about what is your goal, what is your business objective. So,
Mm-hmm.
so everything aligns with that. So, for example, if your intention is okay, no, I just want to do an audio because I want to put out my wisdom, and probably I want to join a ad network, a podcast network, and they will bring in uh, brands and they will run the ad, and I will just produce content. So there are many ways. So so you just want to monetize your audio content. Then you don't have the intention or the objective of thought leadership and selling your product, program, service. Then your content or the podcast or the audio version becomes the product itself. So then we're fine. You don't have to create any social media. You don't have to create any YouTube. Just audio is fine. Okay.
Okay.
So be very clear with your objectives. If that is your objective, you have a solution, go with audio only. But if you have your objectives that you want to sell your product, program, service, you have certain um like community. So, for example, one of our clients, the objective was community engagement. So then the
Mm-hmm.
entire format was guided according to even the
Mm-hmm.
guests, even the theme that we decided. Everything was aligned to how we can engage the community. Then we are not looking at download number. Then the success metric is not download numbers,
Mm-hmm.
right? So everything is defined by what your objective is. So yeah,
That.
everything
So
works. There is an audience for every kind of content. Just you need clarity.
that. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay. So have thank you so much for your time and patience of and generosity to share. And I look forward you get some clients. Okay.
Anytime.
And
I'm happy to
the
help.
goal is to get the problem solved, and you are
Yes.
served and others are served who are in real need. So there are
Yes.
people who have been like, no, Ranjini podcast nahi hua mera.
Yes.
So I
Definitely.
hope
Definitely.
this is sorted.
Cheap.
And I'll see you soon if at all there is a new trend and anything you want to share, because this is a community of educators. You can
Yeah.
always be a
Yeah.
speaker here and share your wisdom as you grow your own company. So
Yeah.
happy
No,
to have you.
definitely. In fact, just today morning itself, there is a very interesting podcast, marketing report, like report on marketing trends in podcasting had come in. So I will share a few insights from there into the group. It will be very interesting for people to see because it gives you an assessment of where I stand in the entire slew of marketing activities that we are doing and what to expect when we launch a podcast. Like what pace it will grow. What do I need to do in order to grow the podcast? What are the activities I think will grow the podcast, but no, the research says it doesn't help. Okay. So those kinds of insights are also very interesting to know. So I will share that infographic. I will create an infographic and share in the group. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so you can be part of our group as long as you want
Yeah,
to be my
sure.
guest, and looking forward to no
Yes. Yes.
having you here and be enjoy this community.
Definitely, definitely. And any questions, yeah, feel free to drop in personally into the group over the social media channels.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Take
Have
care.
a nice
Bye bye.
day or evening.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.